Hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back to another episode of that show that will not be named. I am your host, 2GamePrince, or Brian, whatever you prefer. And today I was hoping to dive into the Puppet Master series. The Puppet Master series is a horror series created by Charles Band and his company Full Moon Pictures, which makes a lot of B movies, basically horror and sci-fi. And they're amazing. Every single one of them, I think, is special in its own way. I eventually plan to one day have every single movie they have ever put out, and they're still making movies, so I plan that, possibly by the end of my life, that I'll have everything they've ever released on DVD. That would be a big accomplishment in my book. But recently, I went online, I went on a binging spree, as I usually do, and I acquired the entire Puppet Master series. And for those of you who do know about the Puppet Master series, for those of you who are interested, I think this series is more or less a recap for people who are interested in the series but haven't really been interested in watching the movies, or people who have seen the movies and just want to reminisce about the movies. So this is more just like a dive in, and depending on how long it is, I may go into certain details about, smaller details about the movies individually, or I may just, give a little synopsis on each one. I got them piled up here, right here next to me, all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All 10 of them. Of course, I am not including Puppet Master vs. the Demonic Toys, for those of you who know that is not canon, because Toulon did not have any kids. You guys will know who Toulon is in a second. And I had considered doing this list in chronological order, putting the movies in chronological order, but I figured it's so much more fun to do it all out of order, just in the way that in the order that the movies came out. Yeah, so I guess let's dive right into this. We're going to start it off with Puppet Master number 1. Now I got all the remastered ones where they put it in the very nice case and they put it onto a new disc and everything. I bought this straight off the Full Moon website. And I'll probably put a link to their website below if you're interested in checking out any of their films. Really amazing shit. They made Subspecies, Blood Dolls is another one of my favorite ones. Going to do a whole review on that when I eventually get it. Amazing films. But first off, we're starting off with Puppet Master. Now, Puppet Master, the first one, is about this group of psychics who are invited to this hotel. One of their colleagues has died. And apparently he was the husband or something or other of this woman who owned this big hotel. Turns out, years prior, there was this guy named Toulon, and he had some formula for bringing he made marionettes and puppets and whatnot, and he had a formula for bringing them to life. So, the plot of the first one, I'm a little etchy on. I've seen the movie 8 times, and every time I go back, I'm just kind of well, I thought this about it, and I thought this about it. But on the whole, the guy who killed himself didn't really. Well, he did kill himself, but he used the elixir that's used to bring the puppets to life to bring himself back to life, bring himself back from death, and he essentially wants to be immortal, but he wants to kill all of his colleagues for some reason. I don't exactly remember. There's probably deeper meaning behind it. But, yeah, he wants all of his colleagues, all the psychics, are slowly getting picked off. And then the one psychic, Alex, he ends up teaming up with the evil psychic's wife and trying to defeat him. And, of course, in the end, as what usually happens in the Puppet Master series, the creator turns on the puppets, mistreats them somehow, and then, in turn, they kill him. So, first one, it feels like it's strange because the first Puppet Master actually happens somewhere in the beginning to middle of the chronological series. I may make a video just going through it chronologically just to make it easier to understand, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, first Puppet Master, basically, group of psychics gets picked off by their psychic friend, who is dead, but he's not really dead, and he uses puppet elixirs that bring puppets back to life. He uses it on himself, and more about the elixir and Toulon later on. So that's the first Puppet Master. Next we have Puppet Master 2. Now, in Puppet Master 2, the puppets, the hotel's been vacant for a while, and the puppets decide, hey, we're going to use that elixir and bring back our master, Toulon, our creator. Toulon comes back, and there's a couple things you don't know about Toulon. He got the elixir to bring the puppets back from this guy who stole it from this Egyptian demon cult worshiper or whatever. There was an elixir that brought shit back to life. This guy stole it from them, gave it to Toulon, and since the 1930s all the way to whenever the hell this takes place, Toulon has been using it to bring his puppets to life. Tell you about the backstory later. That comes in the third one. But basically, this one is just about Toulon. His wife was killed by the Nazis, and after his puppets bring him back to life, he's really creepy. It's like the Invisible Man. He wears like bandages and goggles because he's basically a walking corpse. He's been dead for I don't know how long. But his puppets bring him back, and basically, the puppets need to go around and collect brain matter from humans, fresh brain matter, because it's required to make the elixir. While this is happening, a group of paranormal researchers goes to the hotel in hopes of just doing a little research on the hotel because they heard it's haunted, lots of deaths happen there, yada yada, that shtick. So they end up going, the paranormal researchers end up going there after Toulon has already been brought back to life, and he parades around like, oh yes, I'm the owner of this place, I live here, yada yada. And it's kind of like a story of Dracula almost, in my opinion. Toulon, the newly reanimated Toulon, falls in love with one of the paranormal researchers, this chick who he thinks is like a reincarnation of his wife. Total Dracula plotline here. So, of course, one of the researchers that she's in love with, one of the guys, has to save her from him. And in the end, Toulon, this one movie, number 2, Puppet Master 2, I find very strange because the character of Toulon, for whatever reason, is evil in this one. He's really evil. The rest of the movies paint him as like a hero, a prevailer, not even like an anti-hero, just a hero. He's just a good guy. He just is always for, always trying to do good. But in Puppet Master 2, he's a real evil son of a bitch. Out of the blue. And with him in this movie compared to how he is in the rest of the films, it's strange. It just doesn't fit. But I'm sure like Charles Band didn't have all these other films in mind at the time when they were making this. Actually, he wasn't expecting to crank out 9 films that jumped all over the chronological timeline. But, what can you say? So anyways, the paranormal researcher ends up rescuing the other paranormal researcher. Like I said, John Harker rescues Mina Harker from Dracula. The one paranormal researcher saves the other one from Toulon. Same story, pretty much, except in the end, the little puppets. Toulon pisses off the puppets by pretty much proving to them that he just doesn't need them. His goals are higher than like their lives. He doesn't give a shit about them, which is another thing that's strange because in the rest of the movie he covets them dearly. They're like the one thing in his life that's like, oh, don't let anything happen to my puppets. And this one he's like, fuck you guys, I got a job to do. Which is very strange. But the puppets end up killing him in the end. And he had these puppet bodies constructed. He apparently all you need to do is drink the elixir or inject the elixir into the puppets, like the life-size puppets. He made one of him and he made one of his wife. And he puts his body into the big puppet guy, and then as he's prepared to slit the researcher's throat, the puppets kill him. She gets rescued, and the female puppet is still left there. So the puppets end up taking the soul of a woman that they had previously killed and put her body into the puppet. So she's virtually immortal. But she's wandering around as this creepy puppet person, and she took all the puppets with her. And based on the timeline, I find it extremely confusing as to whose hands the puppets pass through. Because one movie, they'll be like, one movie they'll be with one person, and then in the next movie they'll be with another person, and there will be no explanation as to how it transferred to that person. So at the end of the movie, one of the women that they had previously killed, they put, and her soul ends up in the life-size doll, and she takes care of the puppets from there on. Until number 3 happens. And then we jump into Puppet Master 3. Now Puppet Master 3 is not following this same timeline as the other two. Puppet Master, well, it is following the same timeline. We just jump back a couple of many years, to the Nazis in Germany. And in Puppet Master 3, it pretty much just explains Toulon's backstory. He was a puppeteer who used this Egyptian serum to bring puppets to life. The Nazis found out. The Nazis killed his wife. He kills the Nazis, gets revenge, and flees to France or America. I think he flees to America after that, because then he ends up at the hotel in America, and then 1 and 2 happen, and you could see where all this is leading into. So Puppet Master 3 is really, it's simple. It's a revenge story, but you get the cool addition of a new puppet. I'm sorry, normally the puppets in the first one are actually Blade, which is like a skeleton. He's got like a claw and a knife for a hand. Then there's Miss Leech, she's basically just a doll with black eyes that could vomit leeches. Really creepy. Pinhead, who's got a big body, small head, and he's super strong. Jester doesn't really have any like particular powers or abilities. He can his face is like 3 lines in it, and his face can spin around in all different directions, and when it comes back together, it's like a different emotion. Like, if you're like about to hit him and he's like scared, his face will spin, and when it comes back, he's afraid. And then if something happens to like a person, like, let's say Pinhead hits them in the head with something, and he's safe now, well, then his head will spin around again, and when it comes back, it'll be happy. Shit like that. It's a really funny concept. It's a really amusing concept. Very cleverly done. And then in the sequel, in Puppet Master 2, you get a new puppet, Torch, who's basically like, Germanesque soldier with a flamethrower hand. He actually kills a kid in this movie. A child dies. He sets this kid ablaze because this kid is playing, this one little boy in the sequel is playing Indiana Jones or some shit, and he hits Torch with the lasso. He thinks he's like a toy or something, and then Torch is just like, you just see flames fly. In Puppet Master 3, we get the addition of yet another puppet. Torch is not in this one because he was created way later on in the timeline. This is back in the 1930s. This is back when Toulon was in Germany, not America. And we get the creation of Six Shooter, who is personally one of my absolute favorite puppets. He's just every puppet in this is so geniusly designed. I don't know what it is. Oh, I forgot Tunneler. Tunneler's another one of the most reoccurring. Well, he's one of the main few. There's like a main 5 or main 6. But Tunneler is basically this Asian-looking dude with black eyes who's got a giant drill on his head. I don't like watching his scenes. He's very scary. Very, very scary. Unfortunately, I don't think he's in this one. Nope, I lied. Yes, he is, because I remember a scene with him. But yeah, we get the addition of another puppet, Six Shooter, he's the Six Shooter. And I used to have this toy. I used to have a couple of them. I bought the action figures in like comic book stores and whatnot. Next up, we have Puppet Master 4. So like I said, number 3 is just your average revenge story. Puppet Master 4 jumps ahead after the... Am I reading this right? Yeah. Puppet Master 4 jumps ahead after the events of 1 and 2. So I guess chronologically it's like 3, 1, 2, and then 4. And then really just 4 and 5. Because 4 and 5, in my opinion, I count as a 2-parter. 4 and 5 are basically You see that? See that? No, that's not it. See that demon right there? That's the demon with the elixir that brought the puppets back to life. The elixir was stolen from him. So he creates these things called totems that are about the size of the puppets to kill the people that have the elixir, the current guy who has the elixir, because this new teenage guy, he gets a hold of it, he brings the puppets back to life, and he becomes the new puppet master. And not a lot I can say. He defeats the demon, he defeats the totems, a lot of people die, and pretty much the whole series is wrapped up, and this guy looks to be, the new guy, I forget his name, looks to be a very, very promising puppet master, because he's not evil, he doesn't have any evil goals or anything, so it looks like the puppets, I believe that a sort of thing in the Puppet Master series is whoever the puppets are controlled by, that's what they're like. If they're controlled by an evil megalomaniac asshole, the puppets are going to be evil megalomaniac assholes. If they're controlled by a good person, then the puppets will be good. They're nice, they're kind, they're helpful. It just depends on who the puppet master is. So, like I said, 4 and 5 are pretty much just like a two-parter, in my opinion, because it just carries on the story of the new guy who gets a hold of them. Young guy, like teenager or whatever. He's really, if you think about it, the series, in my opinion, the series kind of wraps up just with the first 5. It could have been fine ending there. But then we skip ahead an unknown amount of years to Curse of the Puppet Master. Now, this one I had originally seen in a video store when I used to live in Florida. I used to always walk past this, and I was so intrigued by the cover. It's the puppets pretty much opening up the blanket, and this guy, when he looks inside, he's all like clockwork. This one is about a puppet master, this guy hiring this kid. He wants this kid to build him a puppet, and when he builds him the puppet, he wants to make the kid the puppet. He wants to see if he can put human souls into the puppets. And same shit. The guy ends up succeeding. Then the guy who turns him into a puppet kills him. This was one of the most confusing out of all of them. This one seemed like one of the most low budget, other than Axis Rising and Axis, which I'll get into later, movies 9 and 10. But this one, it just skips ahead to a guy we've never heard about, a puppet master we've never seen before, with a concept that we haven't really delved into. So it's just an odd one out. It has really nothing to do with the main storyline, other than it features the Puppet Master puppets. And in this one, I don't think 6-Shooter is present in this one, so it's weird, because if this took place like after the events of 4 and 5, which are the most, as far as the series got, I think was like the 80s maybe. This, I guess you could technically count as being one of the last in the series. Chronologically, probably one of the last ones. Maybe even the last. The absolute last. Who knows? But, yeah, that's Curse of the Puppet Master. Next up, we have Retro Puppet Master. Now, Retro Puppet Master is supposed to be, I believe it takes place in World War II Paris. Yes. This was before he got the elixir. So this takes place before number 3, which number 3 is as far back as you can get with the series, in my opinion. This is even, I guess you could begin the entire series off with saying Retro Puppet Master is technically the very first in terms of chronological order. And this pretty much just tells you about the guy who gave Toulon the elixir, which it changed from the second one. I'm sorry, it changed from the third one, because in the third one they say that it was this other puppet master that gave it to him. In this one, it tells you that it's some old dude that he knew that gave it to him, stole it from the demon, and then he's pursued by the demons, and he has to rescue his wife, and really boiled down, but I guess it's alright. So that's Retro Puppet Master, pretty much the first in the series. Puppet Master Legacy. Now this, I don't know where on the timeline this takes place, but in this one, basically, Eric Weiss. Eric Weiss, this old man named Eric Weiss, has control over the puppets, and he's living in seclusion in the theater. Not the theater. In the hotel where the first few movies took place. First two, actually. And Eric Weiss is actually... He was a little boy. He was actually a side character in Puppet Master 3. He was a little boy that befriended Toulon, and in this one it explains that Toulon left the puppets to him, and in his old age, he's supposed to protect them. This movie is pretty much just stock footage re-explaining. If it was an anime, this movie would be filler. It's pretty much just stock footage and just re-showing you everything that happened in the movies in the past, just to basically give you kind of a general chronological sense of how things went with the timeline. But at the end of this one, it turns out that there's this woman who wants to steal the puppets for some rich person who wants them, and this guy shoots her at the end. I don't know if he dies or not, but because I haven't seen this one in a while. The last time I watched this was like 4 years ago. But this one is pretty much just a collaboration of all the best scenes from the movies and pretty much just explaining how the Puppet Master timeline came to be up until this point. So that's Puppet Master Legacy. Now, I don't know if Puppet Master Legacy took place before or after number 5. Number 4 and 5. Because 4 and 5, like I said, it's a two-party, so I consider it in the same... They happen very close together. And then we have another two-parter, which is Puppet Master Axis of Evil and Axis Rising. It's actually Axis of Evil, I believe, came first, and then Axis Rising. And these two pretty much tell you that these two take place between... I guess they take place between Puppet Master 3 and Puppet Master 1. Yeah, I think that's right. It takes place, basically the Nazis go to the hotel, discover the puppets, and there's a whole thing where they gotta hide them, and we get this new Puppet Master that we've never heard about, this young guy who knew Toulon, who finds him in the wall, in his hotel wall that he hid the puppets in the first film. And this is just basically a two-parter talking about the Nazis. Lots of unnecessary shit in it, in my opinion. Like there's this whole side plot line with this chick who's got the hots for this old doctor, and just Nazi shit. And it was alright. We also get, I believe it's in Axis Rising, we get the addition, the Nazis actually make some puppets. They make like a Chinese dude that explodes. They got, what the hell is this? I can't even make out what that is. You know what that is? Right there? Damn, I'm looking at this thing right up here. Kind of looks like a totem, I guess. I don't know. I saw this movie a while ago. But they basically just create really fucked up, racist, I guess, depictions of people in World War II. But Axis of Evil and Axis Rising are pretty much like 4 and 5. It's just like a two-parter. They come immediately after one another. So, the series is all kind of jumbled. Like I said, if we're going to start from the way beginning chronological order, we start with Retro Puppet Master, where Toulon discovers the existence of, oh hey, there's this elixir that can bring puppets to life. Then after that, we're going to go to Puppet Master 3. And in Puppet Master 3, I believe it's in Germany, correct? Gestapo, henchman, or World War II. Maybe it does take place in France. I could be wrong. Maybe it takes place in France, not Germany. But yeah, basically hunt down Gestapo. Toulon's wife gets killed. He hunts down the dude who killed her, kills some Nazis along the way. Good revenge flick with some puppets. And then next in the timeline, we have, I guess, Puppet Master, Axis of Evil, and then Axis Rising. Because it's strange, but when they basically tell you that Toulon shot himself in his apartment when he killed himself, they basically tell you that at the beginning scene of Puppet Master 1. And you just kind of, if you want, like, these two movies take place in between that scene and the next scene of the first one. So I guess you could say these two movies take place in between this movie. But for the sake of argument, we're just going to do, Puppet Master, Axis of Evil, and Axis Rising. And then we're going to say that Puppet Master comes next because the majority of the movie does take place a couple years, many years after this. So I'm going to put that on top of one another. Then, of course, after Puppet Master comes Puppet Master 2. After Puppet Master 2 comes maybe Curse of the Puppet Master, maybe Puppet Master 4. These are always the four I have trouble with. Puppet Master The Legacy, Puppet Master, Curse of the Puppet Master, and Puppet Master 4 and 5. I always get confused because these seem kind of 80s-ish. This seems very modern. And Puppet Master The Legacy takes place... Since it takes place the nearest to the timeline in which Eric Weiss, the little boy from the third film, since it takes place closer to that, I'm going to go with Puppet Master Legacy coming after Puppet Master 2. And then I'm going to say the teen or whatever in this gets a hold of the puppets. And then I'm going to go, okay, 4 happened, then 5 happened. And then I guess we're just going to round off the series with Curse of the Puppet Master to leave the fate of the puppets up in the air. So, going chronological here, we have Retro Puppet Master, Puppet Master 3, Puppet Master Axis of Evil, Puppet Master Axis Rising, the original Puppet Master 2, Puppet Master The Legacy, Puppet Master 4, 5, and Curse of the Puppet Master. And that's as best as I could connect it chronologically, I guess. But kudos to Charles Band for making one of the most nuttiest puppet series doll come into life type shit I've ever seen. I love it. I love it. Whenever I used to go to the video store when I was younger, I'd always see these all over the place. They were amazing. I loved them. I think if I would have never seen a video store, I probably would have never even heard about these movies, because I used to just go up and down the horror aisles. And it wasn't even like back then that I watched the movies. I would just look for the batshit crazy covers, because I knew my parents wouldn't let me watch the movies. So I'd look at the front covers of the films, and I would just try to surmise. Back when I didn't like to read, I wouldn't even read the backs. I'd just look at the front covers and I'd be like, ooh, what's that about? And now all these years later, I can go back and try to rediscover all these old movies. But, yeah, the Puppet Master series, you could buy them all on, I would suggest buying them from Full Moon. This entire set, I bought them individually. This entire thing was about $99, about $99, somewhere around, definitely in the 90s. Which is expensive, but I say if you're going to buy it off of Full Moon just to, support them, because they are building one hell of a legacy over there. I really, really, I was really, really impressed. There's so many more movies I gotta get. They got Blood Dolls, which is about this billionaire who has, like, dolls that he brings to life to kill rich people that he's in conflict with. But there's a whole twist to that movie. And then there's Doll Man, which is about this, it's a sci-fi where this dude from another planet goes through like this time warp or whatever, he's chasing an enemy, he lands on Earth, but on Earth he's like that big, so everyone calls him Doll Man, but he's got like the most powerful laser gun in the universe, could do more damage than any gun, here. Then they got Subspecies series, they've got, so much sci-fi shit, I'm sure they've got shit I haven't even checked out, I haven't even seen yet. They got Killjoy series, which is about this killer clown, really original. And that's not being sarcastic, it's pretty original. Like, he has like a fun house and everything. Like, it's something really paranormal. He's like a demon or some shit, really awesome. Then they got the Demonic Toys series, which I need to get into again. Just so much shit. Then they got the Dolls movies. Then they got Evil Bong, the Ginger Dead Man. The names go on and on. I could talk about Full Moon for hours. Just all the movies they have, all of them. And I've recently just sat down and watched the first Evil Bong, and it's definitely got me hooked to want to watch the rest of them. So I think that's going to do it for this review. I'll be back with more stuff soon. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And please check out the Puppet Master, Full Moon Puppet Master series. Really amazing. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. And plus, I'll just have more people to talk to about it. So that's always good. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Leave any likes, subscriptions, anything you like. And I'll see you guys next time.